Sergeant Summerall, Virginia sheriffs and their deputies are sometimes protected from lawsuits under legal doctrines like qualified immunity and sovereign immunity. Some people believe that these protections are necessary for the duties to do their jobs, while others believe they make accountability harder. The question for you is, as a sheriff, what is your view and the balance of this application within the community? Excuse me, application of immunity.
Again, your deputies, your law enforcement, city police officers, they're going to know the law. You're covered if you're following the law. If you're working within the bounds of your jurisdiction, your authority. So qualified immunity to me, it's very important. You can't do your job effectively if you're worried that every time you make an arrest, every time you try to save somebody, run into a burning building, pull them from a car, that you get sued because you might have broken an arm or dislocated the shoulder when you pulled them off. I've seen that happen before. You need that qualified immunity to do your job, to be effective. As a sheriff, I would just make sure that my folks stay within the law. If you do what you're supposed to do what you train to do, you don't have to worry about qualified immunity. I mean, you're going to be taken care of. It's when you go outside the bounds. If you're rough with folks, if you use excessive force, if you treat people disrespectfully, and so on and so forth, that's when you run into trouble. And that's when you would actually qualified immunity might not go at that time. I know it's big in the federal side now. It's huge. If you see something as an officer, it doesn't matter what rank. If I, as a sergeant, saw my chief abusing somebody, it's my job to go ahead and stop it, put them into that. And it's a duty to intervene. And if you don't, guess what? You don't get qualified immunity yourself, even though you didn't do anything. If you just stood and watched, you can get prosecuted, you can get sent to prison, you can get civil fined, sued, lose your house, everything. So it's everything in law enforcement, but you have to have that protection from the city. You have to know that if you're doing your job within the bounds of the law and your jurisdiction, your authority, then you're covered. And if you're not, it's really hard job to do. It's really hard job to do. So 2020 was an interesting year.
And Sergeant Boubacar?
Yes, I wrote some stuff with that. I think we need the qualified immunity as law enforcement officer, but it's your job as a sheriff to ensure that your people are trained and how you do it. And not only they're trained, but they know what they're doing. One of the things that you have to do is you have to ensure like all policy are written, right? You have to require also that policy be briefing to everybody and require a signature so that way they acknowledge that they understand that policy. Now, we have to do some mandatory training for constitutional policy, bias awareness, use of force standard, and also cultural competence. You have to enforce that internal accountability. Nobody is above the bias, not even those who wear it. Nobody. So people have to know that. The public must know that. You also have to investigate all complaints internally and also anything that comes from outside. One of the things that you want to do is what they call EIS, Early Intervention System, especially with the body-worn camera. I do that all the time. I get only officer that work for me. Every month I take three videos for one officer on the random. I watch their video, see how they interact with people, the community. The reason why I do it is because I'm trying to see if there is any type of misconduct or excessive force. So these how we help your deputies, and also that can build the trust with the community. And lastly, we have to set a culture where, as a supervisor, I'm going to help everybody accountable for their team. Those are your officers. Like my lieutenant does to me, my officers are my responsibility. I have to ensure every day, when they go up, they're doing the right thing by people. But qualified immunity is something that we needed as law enforcement.
And Sheriff Miles?
The challenge of being in public safety is having to make split-second decisions. And especially being in this position, I try to teach everyone at the office that every decision you make will stand in front of a jury. Because especially standing in courtrooms, hearing attorneys and hearing cross-examination and hearing how attorneys fine-tooth comb every decision that we make wearing this uniform, I understand that accountability starts at home. as chief deputy, I investigated complaints, and I also did internal affairs investigations. And if somebody inside of our office was coloring this out in lines, whether it crossed into immunity or not, I made sure that they were held accountable, because I can't expect us to do our best outside the office if we're not holding ourselves accountable inside the office. Immunity doesn't cover you when you work outside the law and outside of policy. So that already exists. So if somebody in this office is doing something that's outside the law, outside of policy, then I'm gathering all the evidence and I'm turning it over to a common attorney for another pair of eyes to look at it. Because if a charge is, if the common attorney believes that there's a charge that should be taken out against that deputy, then I am all in, because they have to be held accountable. I don't believe in sweeping things under the rug. Writing policy to get us accredited, the early warning system, the duty to intervene, and the things that come along with use of force, I'm the one who put pen to paper and write those things into policy. And I was responsible for making sure the deputies were trained on it. And now between the DCJS standards and also the policy requirements, we make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed in how our office operates. And that all starts with inside the office.